when a finance manager deals with more objections, their products per deal is actually more than double when they're on the high end of this, meaning they see 5+ objections versus when they deal with 0. It feels weird, but more objections equals better success. When we turn Siro on for dealers, the first few weeks and often sometimes 1 to 2 months, finance managers are literally doing 1 to 2 products a deal. You layer on Siro over the top of that to say, hey, everybody, here's your weakness, here's your strength, here's what you can work on in specific. Here's why this next month we're focusing on objection handling. It's because the data's shown that this and this are our weaknesses.
Welcome to the Shift into Profit podcast, where leaders come to evolve, teams come to improve, and dealerships come to grow. Every episode delivers the insights you need to transform your people and maximize your performance. Let's shift your store into a new level of profit.
Hey, what's going on, Automotive Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Shift into Profit, where I get to talk to, anybody and everybody I want to talk to and what it takes to shift our business into a more profitable state. Today, I'm in New York City, and I'm at the Siro office. I got invited to come up here and meet with the one, the only, the oh so famous. He did not have to pay me to say that. I'm Gavin. Gavin, what's up, bro?
What's up, dude?
Good to see you, dude.
For this. Yeah, it'll be fun.
We recorded before. You're used to this.
3-4 times. Yeah, I know your shenanigans.
You know my shenanigans?
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
Guys, you think he's ready for it? We'll see. Hey, dude, no, seriously, I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me come up here. You guys have a cool office. By the way, not only is it a cool office, I'm going to tell you right now, you guys have the coolest water machine
It's unbelievable.
I have ever seen.
Yeah.
If you guys out there watching, listening, ever get a chance to come to the Siro office, you just need to get a glass of water. There's about 52 different ways you can serve water here. I love it.
That's how you do it here. Yeah. There's the espresso machine. There's literally anything that you could possibly need to fuel your day as a Siro employee. It's available for you.
Well, there is. And I appreciate, like I said, really appreciate the invite. Super excited to get into the PVR Playbook.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. You guys sent me over a copy. Got to take a look at the insights. Like, if you're a GM, if you're an F&I director, if you're an F&I manager, guys, this episode is for you. You're really going to dig it. But here's what I like to say. For everybody out there watching and listening right now who don't know who Siro is, and I think that's becoming fewer and fewer people on a weekly basis, let's start off with what is Siro? It's not Siri, Siro.
Yeah. So, it's evolved a ton over the last, especially in automotive, over the last 6 months. I would have said we're a recording tool to start, but now we're definitely an AI coaching tool. And how we get there is by recording in-person conversations. Our primary bread and butter, as you know well as me, is probably just recording the finance managers, but we've been breaking into service and sales recently and seeing some great success there as well. But really how the machine works is you record the in-person conversation. Our AI analyzes the conversation against the dealer's prescribed playbook, and it basically extracts insights. And I think for the topic of today, it's insights that help you understand how can we increase our PVR. And that's what we'll be diving into today.
And it's a great, timely topic. I think everybody out there watching and listening right now, this is a busy time of the year, or even when you're in the slow time of the year, we need to be looking at better ways to effectively execute better penetration, better presentations. Let's start with this because we've had a chance to jam a lot, and I love the data-driven philosophy that Siro has, but that hasn't always been available in the automotive space. Yeah. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, what have you been seeing with the dealers that you've been working with that are now shifting the way they operate to be more data-driven and data-led?
Yeah, the reality is we talk about this all the time. Phone call recording exploded 10, 15 years ago because having that data was so impactful. You knew what your people are actually saying.
I just hated listening to them.
Yeah, no, I know it's tough. And dealers are telling us the same thing, but now about the space that we serve, which is, let's focus on the F&I office today. We had one dealer called the black box, because customers go in and they have zero idea what's being said. And for the first time ever now with Siro, you can actually know what's being said and not have to listen to an entire conversation, right?
Now that
around the data-driven decisions, our AI will record all conversations in the box, the finance office, extract that data, and give the dealers, the information that they need to make a better decision to best train their people. And I think that's the beauty of this. It's not a one size fits all, is what we've learned for how you could better train a finance manager to succeed. We'll talk about the different things today that obviously impact improved PVR numbers, but that's how you start making data-driven decisions with a tool like this. It's taking what is actually said, analyzing it, and taking those insights to improve your PVR.
I think one of the things I love, and for about the watching and listening, I know you guys know exactly what I mean when I say this, is, we're optimizing the largest expense of my dealership. And, look, as an industry, we talk about it all the time. We're a people business. Mm-hmm. Since we are a people business, no surprise that's also the most expensive thing on my P&L is our people. And me, I love training. I'll beat that drum all day long that training ultimately leads to better profitability, but we just haven't had the insights of just how well, unless I'm standing right next to that individual, I just don't know how well.
Well, and that's just one clip. That's one moment, one bit of time. And I think what's really cool, and we've talked about this, and this is why we would consider ourselves an AI coaching tool now, is because before you would train a finance manager, you'd spend, you have your TPA in, your agent come in, you hire an outside party, train, and you often see numbers go up and then they start to fall back off again. And that's the beauty of this. You train your team what to do, you record it, we tell you if they're doing it or not. And now with the addition of role play, our AI is looking at every single conversation and actually doing the training for the dealership for the first time ever. It is saying, hey, finance manager, you're struggling with this. Let's actually role play for how we can specifically get you better at this specific weakness, which I think is just, it's a flywheel. I mean, it's just consistent 24/7 around the clock training.
Well, and I think very about the watching, listening, you guys, if you're in charge of the F&I department or even was an F&I manager at any given time, you guys, and you know this to be true, right? You will have an amazing month. Yeah, and you're 100% right. It is right around that time where my trainer came in and worked with my team and we saw the results. I'm sure you guys saw the same. And then being able to keep that consistent growth was ultimately difficult. Because at the end of the day, what was being said, what was changed, I just did not know. Exactly. And speaking of change, it's actually a perfect segue into kind of the first insights. And by the way, guys, you do have to go check this out. It's called the PVR Playbook, right?
PVR Playbook.
And they can go find this.
Just search Siro.ai. You could actually just search into the internet. I've done this a few times on demos. Siro AI, PVR Playbook. It'll pull up the page for you. Or you can go to our website at Siro.ai/auto and find the specific page with it.
Now, this isn't one of those things you're going to charge me $99 for or something like that, right? Where I got to sign up? No?
You'll get the insights for free.
Okay. Yeah. But I do want to talk about, because one of the insights, I looked through this, amazing insights. The first one I want to talk about today, and the one it's one of those things like, as an individual, like, as a leader in the business, this is true, but to actually see it on paper was pretty cool. We're going to talk about the F&I menu presentation and just how it correlates between a fully completed menu versus an incompleted menu presentation and how that relates to profitability. This was a very big eye-opener. Well, I don't know if it was an eye-opener. I knew it, but now to actually see it on paper was really exciting. Tell me a little bit why you guys decided to focus on this specific insight.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive into it. And we're going to pull up the stats here, but there's not a single person in automotive who has not told me they don't preach the 300% rule. I mean, it's consistent. Every single dealer talks about it. And there's a reason for it. Dealers know if their team actually presents every product, every customer, every time, they will perform better. And for a variety of reasons, they don't. Finance managers being they don't do that. And we wanted to see, okay, what happens when you do present every product versus what happens when you leave a few of those off, and what does the data show us? And so let's dive in and see what that looks like now.
Because no one's going to argue that that's not a bad idea, right? But what you guys have here, and we're going to pull this up on the screen so you can see it as well. So walk me through this. What are we looking at?
So basically what we wanted to look at is what's kind of the sweet spot for number of products. And we've actually been having conversations with dealers who have 10 products on their menu about, hey, maybe that's actually a bit overkill. And it's gonna make the decision very difficult for the customer. So the first thing we looked at is what's actually the sweet spot of how many products should be presented. And we did find that there's actually a higher PPD correlated to that 4 to 6 number of products on the menu
Sweet
versus
stuff.
6 plus.
Okay.
So if you're selling, like basically, when you're presenting 4 to 6 products, the PPD we're seeing is the highest at 1.65. Once you go 6 plus, it actually does fall off a little bit down to 1.49.
Too much information for the customer to really kind of process, right?
Exactly.
Too many options at the end of the day.
But to really hammer home how important the 300% rule is, regardless, you look at the bottom left there. If you're pitching 0 to 2 products, you have a 0.75 PPD. And the sad thing is today, when we turn Siro on for dealers, the first few weeks and often sometimes 1 to 2 months, finance managers are literally doing 1 to 2 products a deal. We're seeing VSC and Gap, VSC and Tire and Wheel, Tire and Wheel and
the
Paint.
easy ones, I get. Yeah.
And it's just, if finance managers could see this, and we would love, F&I leaders to show this to their team, that just by putting, what's the Wayne Gretzky say? Miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yep, exactly.
Like it just shows up right here. I mean, it's very obvious. And so for F&I leaders, this is just basically confirming the assumption that you'd had, that the 300% rule matters.
Yes.
And if a finance manager is seeing this, maybe it's a cash deal and you don't feel like talking about paint and fab. Go ahead and do it anyways, because you'll be surprised by how many customers end up moving forward with it.
Yeah, because maybe that one wasn't too expensive, but then this one over here is less expensive, and I can see the correlation into that. I love seeing this. And actually, the one I think what's surprising is the 1 to 2 and just the jump.
I mean, it's literally
it's almost double. It
is double.
Yeah,
It's more than double. Yeah.
And just the 2 to 4, like at a minimum, if you're just doing this, this is how much more. Now, here's the funny thing, guys. We're talking about, products per vehicle being sold. Now, once we start associating dollars with this, this gets really interesting, super, super fast, especially when you take just like a medium-sized dealership and you look at maybe, 150 cars that they're doing, or maybe a couple hundred cars. Like, this is not a small thing. This is very large incremental business very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, to talk to that point, let's just take like a finger in the air assumption about $500 for a product.
Sure.
And if we're looking at the data here and we assume, okay, you're selling 150 cars a month, the rooftop, well, that's $75,000 additional right there. You scale that out over the year, we're almost $1 million. It's $900,000
Right there.
And we're talking with groups that have 30, 40, 50, 100 plus rooftops. I mean, you guys can do the math. And this is the power of the 300% rule. And if a finance manager is ever, once they're recording with Siro, not actually hitting that, now you have the data to go show them, hey guys, we want to make more money at the dealership and for you, and this is how we do it.
Well, here's what I like from a team culture perspective, right? Is that it's not just someone telling me to do something. You know what I mean? I'm showing that when you consistently swing this way, you're able to get these results.
Yep.
And that is the type of insights, just as a leader inside of a dealership, and I'm sure for a lot of you out there watching and listening right now, you know this too, is that you can tell someone all day long, but when you can actually show them, all right, when you step up to the plate and you swing it this way, look how much more results that you're getting. That's huge.
Yeah, and the one I'm excited. I something maybe we got to do an updated PVR playbook later in the year. Is what's the difference between that like 6 to 8 products offered? Because it starts to fall off, right?
More, right?
And then what's 8 to 10? Because I think that's a real thing. We see this all the time when we look at recordings. Customers obviously are getting decision fatigue right in front of them. You can hear it on the other end.
Yeah.
And so I think this is something for dealers to actually take a look at this data and consider, if we've got an 8 if we got an 8 product menu here, maybe we gotta consider knocking 1 or 2 of those off. We'll actually see more success. So something for us to take home on the Siro side to really dive into that. But I think that's another interesting side of this.
I love the fact that we're just now, by the way, we're introducing you guys to the first version of the PVR playbook, and you're already working on the next version. Yeah. But look, this is what's exciting about when you're recording those in-person conversations, the level of insights and trends that you're like, guys, how many times in a business or in our dealerships where you had this amazing month, you've knocked it out of the park, it's moon and stars, everything aligned. And then just literally the following month, you can't even repeat even a fraction of what you did, right? That happens in our industry all the time. And as an owner, that frustrated me so much. Now I can actually see the behaviors that are equating to the results. Now that gives me the opportunity to now reverse engineer backwards and coach these individuals on better behaviors. And speaking of behaviors, this is a great segue into the next thing I want to talk about. Guys, by the way, you got to go to the website, PVR Playbook, check it out. All right. I want to get into objection handling, which, by the way, could be a whole podcast completely on its own. You know me, I love talking about objection handling. But you guys surface some pretty cool benchmarks here that I'd like to go over.
Yeah, let's dive into objections here. So pulling up the data here. When I first saw this, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then I thought about it a little bit more and actually had our data scientist like explain to me why this is happening. And it makes a ton of sense, where more objections actually equals more products sold per deal.
Okay, hold on a second, real quick. Because we're about to watch, I'm going to have Gavin say that one more time because this was really, really cool. And it's like, once we started talking through it, I got it, but like, I didn't see this coming. So just one more time, say it one more time.
So when a finance manager deals with more objections, their products per deal is actually more than double when they're on the high end of this, meaning they see 5+ objections versus when they deal with 0. I mean, we're looking at that there. You deal with 0 objections, your PPD is 1.2 or a little over maybe 1.05. And then when it's at 5+, it's nearing 2.6 products per deal. So yeah, it feels weird, but more objections equals better success.
Okay, I love everything about, you know what this feels like? It feels like golf to me.
Yeah.
You know, it pretty much, you guys golf, you know how it is, right? You do literally the opposite of everything you think you're supposed to do, and somehow it works. And this kind of feels in this similar vein of that. It's like, no, get as many objections as you can will actually increase the results. This is awesome.
Well, and the second you just peel back the onion, it makes a ton of sense, because I had just watched a recording a few weeks back, and this finance manager took down 4 different VSC objections before he finally got the VSC sold. And so this is proof that actually not taking the first no is really what makes the difference in the F&I office. And we see this consistently. I just actually was literally on a training with one of our larger dealer groups, and they're looking to increase their PVR $200 over the next 90 days. And it's like a hard goal. It's a very ambitious goal. And so we went into our AI and asked, like, hey, we are trying to move our PVR $200 over the next 90 days. What are the core things holding us back? The number one thing was there is about 10 of their 15 finance managers who accept the first no on a product and move on, compared to those other 5, they actually take it 3+ times. And so this is what this is showing. It's sitting in the pocket is something that we used to say when I was in my door-to-door days, and overcoming the objection and seeing if that's the real objection. And we can dive into, what's the best practice for handling an objection. And our AI would serve that up right to your finance managers and tell them what to do. But this is really the beauty of, it's proof in the pudding that having the ability to overcome an objection, attempting to do it, allows you to get more, which actually allows you to sell more products.
And one of the things I really like about this is you're not just testing my training, you're actually pushing back on my training, because I may not be training this way right now.
Yep.
But what you guys have uncovered here is going to me as a leader of my dealership or as an F&I director. All right, I'm now going to maybe really dive deeper into this and understand the psychology behind getting the customer to go through the objections, because the objections surface more value propositions. I understand this. You're right. As we start peeling it back, and can actually understand the correlation here, right?
Yeah.
Through the conversation around the objections, you're actually driving out the core value that someone ultimately uses to make the decision on why they should buy the product or not.
Well, and the thing is like, we see this all the time. Customers will give you the worst objection possible. Oh, I don't need it. Well, what the hell does that mean? Like, do you mean you actually don't want the product, you don't see value in it, or you don't need it because you can't afford it?
Right.
Like, if you don't attempt to overcome that objection and ask, okay, well, tell me more. Is it that you don't see the value, or is that you just can't afford it? Well, I can't afford it. Boom, there's objection 2. Okay, now I know, okay, what's the real objection here? Now I can start overcoming the real objection. It's a price, they're price sensitive to it, versus, oh, well, I don't need it because I've got a buddy who's a technician down the road. He'll be able to help me out. very different ways for how you'd overcome the objection from there. But you went from, I don't need it, objection 1, to whatever the truth was is what they told you with objection 2. And now you're overcoming the real one, and you're going to go see 5+ objections on that deal before you close it.
Here's the cool thing about the insights you guys have surfaced here. We're not talking about a handful of dealers. Because it's one thing I could see, and I can see the argument here. Well, that's not really my group. All right. But you guys are working with how many dealerships right now?
Yeah. I mean, we've added about 700, a little over 700 this year.
Just
in the last 7 months. Yeah. I mean, it's been wildfire. And this data was across 5,000 different conversations, a variety of different dealer groups all across the country. So I can tell you with a pretty high degree of confidence that, maybe this wouldn't be the exact data we would see in your dealership, but I'll tell you, it'd be probably pretty damn close.
It makes sense to me. I understand the value of what it surfaces.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I like to do. And because thousands and thousands of conversations, hundreds and hundreds of dealerships. All right. You've seen the good, you've seen the bad, you've seen the ugly. I'm not talking about the best movie literally of all time. What are you seeing right now what are the best of the dealer operators out there doing differently in the F&I office?
I think it's actually probably the next statistic that we're going to look at. And we do see this as it's split. I'll ask dealers all the time, do you guys have your people do a customer interview, outside of the finance office? And some dealers say, yeah, we do it, but we don't really enforce it. No, we don't do it at all. And then some are like, we do it, and this is what we do here. And that last dealer is the one that we're actually seeing the best success with by far. And it's because when you do a proper customer interview outside the finance office, and sometimes it's impossible to do it there. Sometimes, back-to-back deals, they're stacked on top. You still have to do that customer interview at some point. And the reason for that is, how are you ever going to actually tell that customer why they need this product if you don't actually understand their true needs? Maybe just the husband's there. You see a wedding ring, okay, wife, husband, but do they have kids? How many miles do they drive? Yeah. And that information is what actually tees everything else up in the menu presentation. And so I'd say that's been probably the number one eye-opening thing that we've been seeing. And we're actually now pushing dealers to start enforcing this, because when finance managers do that customer interview, they take the data to then say, hey, you told me this earlier. This is why this product makes sense for you. The close rates on those products are significantly higher, and we can start diving into the data on that now.
Let's actually take a look at that, because I think for years as an industry, we have been talking about the importance of executing that. And I think for a lot of you out there watching and listening, you guys probably want to argue that this is it's a good idea, right? But the cool thing is you guys are able now to put the data behind it to say that this is not just a good idea. This is what really operationally changes the good dealers from the great dealers out there.
It's just back to the basics. It's something we talk about in sales training here. If you're doing the basics right, things go well. And this is one of the basics. And so let's take a look at the stats here. Based on product acceptance rates, based on the pitch type. So to define the pitch type, like what we're looking at here, named only means they just actually named the product. We have tire and wheel.
Yes.
Then a brief mention is, we have tire and wheel and it does this and this, but they don't give any benefits or a reason to buy it. Sure. Don't explain what happens if you blow a tire, how expensive that would be. Then you got a generic pitch, which is actually everything a finance manager should do in a product presentation. They explain what it is, the features, the benefits, how much it would cost if this were to happen, if you didn't have this product. And then at the very bottom, we see the specific pitch, which means I do everything I just talked about. But I'd say, let's take paint and fab as an example here. Customers got 4 kids. Well, when I talk about paint and fab, I better bring up the 4 kids and how 4 kids are messy and they spill things, and they will spill something. When I'm talking about that product, to explain why it's necessary for them. Yeah. And look at the data here. I mean, the acceptance rate when you just say paint and fab versus do what I just described, give it a full presentation and relate it back to the customer's needs. If you only name it, we're looking at, what is that, 13%?
Yep.
And if you do a proper specific pitch for the customer that caters to their specific needs, we're looking at about a 60% close rate.
It's a huge difference. This is not a small thing. This is a big thing.
And dealers want to understand, well, why is this guy struggling? Well, I guarantee you, we go look at the data, that guy doesn't do a customer interview, or he does a half-assed one, and he doesn't actually go relate with that. I mean, I'm trying to imagine
You're trying to personalize the product.
I'm trying to imagine being a finance manager without the customer interview. You're just flying blind. You're just spraying features.
You're reading off a brochure.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. You're product vomiting.
Exactly. And so I think, any dealer that has not introduced a customer interview and made it a part of their process, this is the one I think you should walk away with and go put it in tomorrow, because it's a basic skill. Everyone knows what to do. Now you just have to enforce it.
Well, and this is, for everybody out there watching and listening right now, this is that difference between being a good dealer and being a great dealer. But also what I think the difference is just when we start associating these with dollars, I mean, guys, we're talking about a 13% between a 60%. All right. That is a monster difference in a close rate there. That is absolutely huge. And there's not an F&I manager out there that if we had that stats, here's the thing. And I was an F&I manager. If you told me this is what I needed to do to succeed, I don't see a world where I'm not doing that.
Well, I don't think some people understand this. I don't think they realize the power of this. And this is why we're doing this. Go show your finance managers, the ones who are pushing back, go show them the data. I mean, you can see on the PVR Playbook online, coming off the top of my head here, when you do an interview and you customize the pitch, I want to say the PPD is 2.75. And when you don't do an interview at all, I think it's 1.3 or 1.4.
It's almost half.
Yeah. I mean, and finance managers are smart. They can do the math. How much would that be for dollars in your pocket if you could basically double your PPD? It's just a no-brainer.
See, this is what I love about this technology, guys, is once we start actually recording these conversations, being able to find the trends and the insights and unlock, all right, the profit that shifts, hence the reason the name for the podcast, that shifts our business into a whole nother gear that just literally did not exist before, right?
Yep.
Like, I know we're getting towards the tail end of our conversation, and there's still a lot of insights here, and I'm sure we'll be back. We'll be recording some more of these, guys. And I encourage you, everybody out there watching, listening, you got to go to the website. All right, it's Siro.ai. All right, check out the PVR playbook. There's a lot there. But before we leave today, I want to talk about people and talent, right? Because I think at times we just haven't been able to associate, all right, a level of talent with an individual, and now we start to actually kind of see that. This is one great example of that, right?
Yeah.
People plus talent should equal profit. And we are training our people to be more talented. We just haven't seen the data to prove that our training is sticking. For everybody out there watching and listening right now, do you have any final thoughts on how the dealership can be improving both their people along with the talent?
Yeah, I mean, something that we encourage, and we've seen our highest PVR performing dealers, especially like where they stack up amongst other stores within their region, is, again, it's back to the basics. Training is actually top of mind, and something that we push. Some dealers do a weekly, a bi-weekly, a monthly meeting with their finance managers and have everyone get in a room and talk about what's working, what's not working.
Yep, I did that.
And that's great to do that today. Some dealers don't do that. Some dealers do. That's something we require every dealer to do once you're using Siro. One, because just doing that in itself helps. Then you layer on Siro over the top of that to say, hey, everybody, here's your weakness, here's your strength, here's what you can work on in specific. Here's why this next month we're focusing on objection handling. It's because the data's shown that this and this are our weaknesses. So it's introducing a set cadence of time that is blocked out on the schedule to talk about training, make it top of mind. Because if you're just, hoping your finance managers are putting their best foot forward, but not doing any proper training and not holding people accountable to show up to a meeting and discuss what's working and what's not, you're just, again, you're kind of flying blind and hoping that your team figures out what to do.
I think flying blind is the right way to do that. And ultimately, you don't have to be flying blind anymore, or having gut feelings or I think this is happening. You can actually know everything. What is going on with your team? How are they executing? All the time and money you've spent in training with Siro, guys. I really encourage you to check out the PVR playbook. All right, there are some amazing insights here. Some that you may find that you already knew about, and some that just now go, see, look, I told you, I knew it that this was happening. So, Gavin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been an absolute blast. I look forward to doing this again with you. For everybody out there watching and listening, you have to go check out the Playbook. Like I said, Siro.ai. We really appreciate your guys' time today. Look, one of the biggest compliments you can give us as content creators is share the show. All right. So if you got a manager or an F&I manager, an F&I director that needs to see some portion of today's conversation, be a hero, share the show. Dude, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Cheers, guys.